God raised Jesus up. And of that, we are all witnesses. Witnesses. Peter calls all of the apostles gathered together for his sermon witnesses. He calls us witnesses, people who have seen an event take place. But surely we aren't the same kind of witnesses as the apostles. I mean, these people were there for the big event. But when we look back at it, most of them weren't. Most of Jesus's followers, they fled and left him alone for the crucifixion. Some of them saw the resurrected Jesus, but not everyone. And when Peter begins his sermon, his address, he begins saying, "Men of Judea and all who live in Jerusalem." Not all of these people had literally seen Jesus' death and resurrection, but still they are witnesses. But still we are witnesses. People for whom this story has come alive. People who have the story written on our hearts, on our souls, into the very fiber of our being. We are witnesses. We are an Easter people, a people who have come from the ashes, a people who live into resurrection. I remember about this time last year, feeling like I'd witnessed something major. It was the beginning of Holy Week, roughly a year ago, and Adam and I were living in Cienegita, Panama. We were out in our yard hanging our laundry on the line when Senora Paula, our director and our Panamanian mother, called out. Her yell scared us. We dropped our clothes and we ran through the hole in the fence that separated our yard from hers. We wanted to know what was wrong. And for the first time, really for the only time, she invited us into her home. She had her hands clasped over her mouth. She nodded towards the television. It was strange. It was the first time Adam and I had watched TV in almost a year since we'd been working as missionaries. And there we were, watching in horror as the Cathedral of Notre Dame in Paris seemed to be going up in smoke right before our eyes. I remember thinking that watching this holy place slowly collapse at the start of Holy Week, which culminates in the commemoration of Jesus' passion, death, and resurrection, was of undeniable significance. I remember making the connection between the ashes that marked our heads on Ash Wednesday and the ashes of Notre Dame, this recognizable symbol of a people of faith, something people noticed from around the world. It felt devastating to know that this place of worship, that this place of beauty, this relic of history, that this icon of Christianity might not make it through. It was the first news that we watched on TV in over a year. And it wasn't good news. It felt heavy. Heavy. Kinda like now, when everything seems uncertain, when we're still sheltered at home, some of us out of work, some of us homeschooling, some of us are just bored out of our minds. When the heaviness of it all just comes rushing in, bills that need to be paid, family and friends who are sick, worry over loved ones who are elderly or vulnerable. And then there are the little things, like the fact that my in-laws were supposed to visit this past week, or that the Zoom happy hour calls that I've been having with friends and family just don't seem to be cutting it right now. I miss festivals. I miss vacation. I miss the little things that I took for granted. Admittedly, where we are this year, it feels a little heavier, a little ashier than the Notre Dame fire that weighed me down last year. And we've just celebrated Easter. This reminder that life can come out of the darkest places, that restoration is possible, that nothing is without hope. That we're a people of resurrection. That even in the ashes, we're an Easter people. This year, as we navigate a global pandemic and concerns and fragile lives and financial worries, online platforms for work and school, social distancing, the critical U.S. presidential election, and the normal challenges of life that are on our personal plates. What does it look like to live into the resurrection? What does it mean to be witnesses that God raised Jesus up? What does it mean to be an Easter people? Right now, my answer is Leslie. Leslie's a good friend of mine. We met at church, and we've gone on mission trips together. We've camped and hiked together. We've eaten hundreds of cookies together. And Leslie's engaged. And if you're engaged right now, you know that your world is up in the air. You've planned and prepared, and then your venue calls and tells you that it's off. And then you plan some more, and the government announces no more gatherings over 50 people. And so you tweak and you plan again, and then the president says no gatherings over 10 people. And then the courthouses start to close. And worry sets in. That you just might not get married before your fiance's next military assignment. And you watch so much of what you've planned for turn to ashes. Thus is the life of those who are engaged. Well, Leslie was engaged. She got married yesterday, and I had the honor of getting to officiate the wedding. The day was nothing like it was supposed to be. It rained, for one, for our outdoor wedding. But then the garden wasn't filled with 100 or so of their closest friends and family. Instead, we strictly abided by all social distancing regulations, 6 feet apart, gathering outside with less than 10 people present. But there was a wedding, and now a marriage. It was a defiant act of hope to push through the ashes of what Leslie and her fiancé had dreamed the day would be, and to embrace what it had become. They took a stand, saying that they believe in new life, that they believe that their marriage won't be defined by this virus, but will rise through it, that beauty can come through darkness. To me, their wedding ceremony was like an Easter. We gathered together to celebrate love and that God had brought into hope. Be redeemed. As they stood together, their hands as they said, "I do," I gave thanks for their witness. For in their own way, They reminded us that we're called to be a people of hope. We are witnesses. We are an Easter people, a people who live into resurrection, a people who rise through the ages. Amen.